Let's chat about books, let's chat about books. I read some books and now I have some thoughts. Hello beautiful, welcome back to Nat's Beautiful Life. Today we're going to be doing a little book chat about The 10,000 Doors of January. That's right, by Alex E. Harrow. This was the October book club book of the month, and I want to do some chatting about our book club books from now on, or until we decide that it's no longer fun. But today I'm gonna do it. So if you have not read this book, that's okay. I'm going to give some vagaries and then I will let you know when some spoilers start. If you're new to this channel, hello, my name is Natasha and I do videos on books, beauty, bullet journaling, but mostly books and basically anything else I want to do a video about because, you know, I can. If you like me, if you like this channel, if you want to see more, be sure to click the like button, click the subscribe button, and click that notification bell so you never miss a video. Alright, so let's start talking about The 10,000 Doors of January. This is a portal fantasy, so think Alice in Wonderland, think Shauna Maguire's books. What are they called? The ones, Every Heart a Doorway, that series. Think Wizard of Oz, whatever. Portal fantasy. But we do spend a lot of time in our real world, so don't expect to be traveling down the rabbit hole the whole time. So we start off, we have our main character, her name is January, and she lives with Mr. Locke. Mr. Locke is a wealthy man. He is not her father. He employs her father. Her father travels around the world looking for unique objects that Mr. Locke collects and keeps in his home. And January and this takes place in the early 1900s, so I think it's like 1902 or 1907, something like that, when it starts. It tells you right away. But she travels with him, and she has learned how to be a privileged lady, kind of a thing, but she's also a very rambunctious child, and she likes to get into things. She likes adventure. She likes all of that stuff. And during this time, we have to keep in mind that race was a big deal in our country, because this does take place in the US. And she is neither black nor white. She's kind of a golden color. And throughout the book, people are like, oh, she must be from India. She must be from somewhere. Like, they're constantly trying to guess what she is. And her father is the same kind of complexion, and they just kind of go with it. But she's a pretty girl, but they can't figure out what she is, and you know, it shouldn't matter, but that's the thing. So she's raised amongst all these white privileged people, and basically this man, Mr. Locke, has a society of people who also collect interesting things and all of that. And they basically parade her out when they have their little galas and things like that, where everybody's coming by. He dresses her up and brings her out as well, and it basically is just showing off another piece of his collection. But we do find that Mr. Locke does care for January, and he does love her as best he can. And one day, while they are traveling, she finds a door just in the middle of a field, and this is pretty quick in the book, so I'm not spoiling anything yet. She finds a book in the field just by itself, and she walks through it, and it is a different place. She walks in and it's beaches, and she smells the sea and all of this, and she picks up a coin while she's there, and she hears Mr. Locke calling for her. So she steps out of the door. She still has the coin in her pocket. She has brought her little diary that she usually writes things in with her, and he throws it like away into like a pile and tells her to come back and whatever. And from that point on, he gets a little bit more strict with her. He wants her to become a lady and all of this. And all of this time, her father is, like I said, traveling away, and he loves her and she loves him, but nothing is really keeping him home. He's constantly traveling and constantly looking for things, and you get more in depth with that as you go. Now, within this home, there is a different rooms with different things in them, and there's a chest in there. And in the chest, sometimes she opens the chest and there are things in there, and she thinks that they're little gifts from Mr. Locke. And one day when she is much older, she finds a book entitled The 10,000 Doors of something. It's not called The 10,000 Doors of January, it's just called The 10,000 Doors. And she begins to read it. I really enjoyed this book. It is different. It is a lot different than anything that I've been reading lately, so it was a good breath of fresh air. And if this sounds anything at all like something that you would enjoy, then go for it, because not only do you have the portals that we will travel through, and you can pretty much guess that, there's friendship. She has the little grocer boy. They kind of grow up together. He's delivering groceries and things like that, and when he does, he brings her dime store novels. They like to read a lot and read about adventures and things like that. She also has a woman who comes, and her father says, you know, she has a note from her father saying that he's sent her to be a companion to January, and so she actually lives in the same dwelling room as January, and she is South African, I believe. And so there's this growing friendship and all of this, and she also has these feelings of things just aren't right. She's getting that things aren't necessarily the way that they should be with some of the people. She finds that they are very strange and cryptic. And one of the really cool things about this is she does get a dog, and when she's younger, and they grow up together, and that dog is her very best friend and travels with her always. And I think that was a very cute thing to put into the story as well, because she refers to him as her best friend, and he is an interesting little pup. So that is kind of like the main gist before we get into discussions of what is in the book. Like specifically, I gave this book 4 stars. I don't know why I didn't give it 5, but I think something just held me back. But it's definitely a high rated book for me. I do recommend it. So if this sounds like something that you would enjoy, then go pick it up. Alright, so now we're going to go into some spoiler. If you're here for the spoiler talk, then I'm going to assume you've read the book. If not, whatever. This is a little bit later than the original part of the video, because I realized as I was chit-chatting about the book that I didn't have all my thoughts together. So they're together now, and I have coffee, because you can't have a book chat without coffee apparently. So this book was recommended to me by my hairdresser, and she loved this book so much that she bought a whole bunch of copies of them to give to people. So I knew it was one that like I had to read. A, she gave it to me, and B, she gave it rave reviews. So very much intrigued. Also, the hardback quarter, I'll link her channel down below. Allie, she had mentioned this a couple months ago and raved about it. So it was definitely on my radar already, and then when she mentioned it, then I was like, yes, please. So I kind of was going through the timeline of things, and we find that she was 9 years old when she asked her dad finally if she could go with him, and he told her no. And then we find out later that he had actually at that time wanted to either tell her or take her or whatever, but he felt like too much of a coward to do so. So there was some sort of feeling like he felt this love for January. He just didn't know what else to do. I don't know how to feel about the dad. I feel like, yeah, I get where he was constantly trying to get back to Adelaide. I think I called her Agnes earlier, sorry, but Adelaide. And that kind of superseded everything in his mind. And at the same time, you have Mr. Locke here, who is basically holding him hostage somehow. I mean, I think a part of keeping January was a way to control Julian at first, but then I think he really did start to love her and think of her as a daughter of his own, which he does actually admit later on, but he felt that way. It was 13 years old when Samuel gave her the dog, and of course everybody said no, and then she writes down, I marked the little page number here. On page 35, she writes the words, give me a minute. Once upon a time, there was a good girl who met a bad dog, and they became the very best of friends. And then the next morning, very early in the morning, Samuel brings the dog back. She takes it, brings him in, and keeps him. And we see from that moment that maybe we are dealing with something a little bit supernatural. Here's my situation. I didn't know if maybe at first it was the book she was holding or writing in, or if it was the coin she had in her pocket, or you know, whatever. But I do think it was very interesting to have her write that and then that immediately come true. And then we have, yeah, so we get our first hint that she has a power. Then Jane comes. I can't remember if she came about the same time or a little later, but it was when she was 17 is when this all starts rolling for her story. Adelaide's story is a whole other thing that is found in the book The 10,000 Doors that January finds in the trunk. And I keep saying "and" a lot. I feel like you should like take a drink of your soda or coffee every time I say "and." But it's just the continuation. She finds that book and then she starts to read Adelaide's story, and we figure out that we're not only really learning about doors, but as we continue, I'm thinking, where does January fit in here? This has got to be something interesting, and especially when they get to the part where he's talking about him becoming a scholar and you learn about word workers and things like that. I don't think she even got to that point yet, but I thought that was very interesting to kind of like, the author gives us little bits and pieces here and there of little hints of things that could be or things to come. I also love that the dog's name is Sinbad, but everybody calls him Bad. And if a dog doesn't like you, then a dog knows a bad person when it sees it. And I love that it attacked Havemeyer. And yeah, we got our first glimpse that he is, I thought immediately when she described him about being pale and just strange looking and all that, I thought maybe there was something more to him than just a bad guy. We find out that that does occur, but again, we get this seed placing all throughout the book, which I thought was well done. It wasn't super obvious, but it was enough to make you perk your ears up and be like, something's happened. When we have Miss Locke remembers later on when it's convenient, and again, it's not like one of those moments of convenience things. It's like she remembered, oh, I did this with the dog, maybe this will work now. And she writes herself out of an unlocked, you know, out of a locked door. And because of that, and because of something she says, she's put in an asylum. And I wonder, does Mr. Locke put her in the asylum because he really wants to protect her from other people? Does he want to control her? So later he can maybe use her to find doors or use her as leverage. I do not know if he has any idea about the word working ability. I don't know if Julian's ever told him anything like that. I feel like if he had known about it, then things would have been a little different. Like he would have used her a little bit more than he did. But I kind of wonder what his kind of thoughts were with the asylum. Was it just to put her away forever, or maybe like put her there until she's willing to cooperate? Because obviously she has an ability to figure out and find doors, because she has. And she came through a door and all of that stuff. So there's just kind of my thoughts. I don't know. It's not answered. I love the loyalty of Samuel and Jane. I love the loyalty that they have when she's in the asylum and he comes to her and he brings her her book. And I also really love the depth of just friendship. It wasn't like, you know, I mean, obviously Samuel loved her, but it was like, it doesn't matter if you love me back, I'm still going to be loyal to you. I'm still going to help you out. And I'll go wherever. And even when she tells him everything and it's all crazy, he is cool with it. I felt for Jane when she tells her story, how she was locked out of her door and she wanted to go back. And she figured whenever Julian was gone, she kind of felt hopeless, but then was kind of hanging on. But she was still loyal to January, and said, even if, you know, your father's can't make it happen or whatever, I'm still going to look for the door. I'm still going to do this, but I'm also going to be loyal to you, because she loved January as well. So I loved that loyalty. I also appreciate the author's work in how January escapes the asylum. I appreciate that it wasn't as simple as writing something on a wall or scratching something out here. She literally wrote on herself by scratching into her own flesh. Because it was gross, but I feel like it raised the stakes and showed how desperate she was and how much she wanted to get out of there. And I thought it was interesting when she thought of a safe place to go, she went immediately to the place that Samuel had told her about, and was there. And I thought it was also cool that Jane was there. I was very happy that they were all reunited. And yeah, that was cool. I loved the way everything worked together. And by that I mean all the little hints, all the little breadcrumbs, all the little things that the author gave us throughout the book within both stories. They all were very well hashed out and came to, you know, fruition. We got answers. And I love that. I love when that is really well done, where it's not too obvious, because I feel like some authors are too obvious in that, and you're like, oh, well, then that's gonna mean they're the killer, or oh, that's gonna mean this, that, or the other. But with this one, you were just waiting. You were just waiting to see what happened, and it all hashed out so well, and I was very pleased with everything that wrapped up. And we all love a happy ending, don't we? And I also love that it was, even though it was a happy ending, there was an open ending where we find January going out and exploring a little bit more. So, let me know what you thought about the 10,000 Doors of January by Alex Haro. If you have any extra thoughts, put them in the description box below. I'm sure we'd all love to hear them. And I will see you again very soon right here on Nat's Beautiful Life. Have a great day, gorgeous.